The psychedelic revolution is here. If you want to integrate your visionary experiences into your purpose, get clear on your entrepreneurial path, and help people while you do what you love, then this podcast is for you. Welcome to The Psychedelic Entrepreneur, Medicine for These Times. I'm your host, Beth Weinstein. I'm a spiritual business coach, 3-time entrepreneur, and a lifelong student of psychedelics and sacred plant medicines. You carry your own unique medicine, and your medicine is what we need for these times. This podcast will help you to share your medicine so you can create transformation in the world. Listen in on conversations with psychedelic leaders, changemakers, and conscious entrepreneurs who are living proof that a better world is possible when you follow your heart and live in alignment with your soul. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Medicine for These Times. I'm so honored to have Samantha Sweetwater with us here again. And Samantha, it's so good to have you back on. I love bringing guests back on who've been on here before. You've published a book. This is huge. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I think when you were on here, it was, what was it, 3 or 4 years ago? So it might have been when you were just starting out. Because I do remember you mentioning a book. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, I follow you and I've seen bits and pieces over time. And it's just amazing to witness. Like, it's out. It's a real deal. You have it right there in front of you. Do you want to hold it up and show everyone?
This is the book. Ooh, this is the book. True Human, Reimagining Ourselves at the End of Our World, forward with Lynn Twist. A tribute to the possibility of our remembering who and what we are relative to the earth.
Yeah. I actually really want to dive into this topic. And then we can go into your own story. But tell me what inspired you to write this book, and what is, why even the title True Human? And, I was like, is that a true human on the cover?
Yeah. I mean, the human on the cover is a likeness of me that I am a true human. And it is an image that was co-created by Midjourney with a series of thought experiments that I did around what it is to hold the imagination of the earth within ourselves, and to collaborate with all of life, which I don't think of technology as nature. I think of technology as an emergent property of evolutionary process that only creatures as complex as ourselves can create, that breaks biological and ecological process, unless we place it in reciprocal, metabolic, and energetic relationship with nature. So in that, extended definition, the image on the cover actually could be an instantiation of what technology does when it reifies and amplifies what humans and technology are for relative to the Gaian song.
Oh gosh, this is going to be fun.
Yeah, you asked me why did I write this book? What is True Human? There was a lot of questions in that question. In 2020, I had a dream. It was April of 2020, just after the COVID lockdowns. And I had a dream one night where I was walking on a planet like the Earth, a Gaia. So I take the view that Gaia is not just our planet. Gaia is a Greek name for the goddess of Earth, and it's another name for Earth in Greek. And I take the view that there are many Gaias around the universe. They're extremely rare, and they are water-bearing planets where water has collaborated with matter and the local sun to boot up complex life. So a Gaia is a very specific category of life-bearing planet in the universe. And in this dream, I was walking on a different Gaia with a woman named Sophia, or a hominid, a human-like being named Sophia. And she was communicating with me with her mind about what it is that organisms like ourselves, and we humans are creator, preserver, destroyer beings. We're a particular class of organisms in the ecological process of a planet like ours. where these beings had transcended technological adolescence without breaking life. And she was showing me what it's like to be a human being from a culture where the culture takes for granted that humans are part of nature and lives in communion with nature and in integrity and reciprocity and complementarity with all the different metabolic kinship processes that make life possible. And so she was showing me about that. And we walked out to the end of a jetty and we communed with, there was a storm coming in from the ocean, and we greeted that storm and we thanked it for coming, and we communed with it, and we, invited it to come peacefully and to nourish the land and to nourish the people. And then with gratitude, the storm was coming. So we turned around and walked back into the village. And as we were walking into the village, she said to me telepathically, the civilizing impulse of true humans is to harmonize the forces of nature. And I woke up from that dream with that sentence just blazing in my mind and wrote it down. And at the very center of the book is our teachings from Sophia. So I would say in some ways that is why I wrote the book. I wrote the book because it was already in me to write a book. I was already working on a book. There are teachings that have come from many, many places in 30 years of my life as a facilitator and as a coach. And as a regenerative soul guide. But at the core of it, it was like that kind of koan or that sutra really gelled the book. And the whole book is built around that one sentence. The civilizing impulse of true humans is to harmonize the forces of nature. And it doesn't say harmonize with, it says harmonize, because our consciousness actually our consciousness and our creativity can serve a harmonizing function as a force of nature within all the other forces of nature here on this biosphere. Both our creative capacity as artists and as as a medicine person, it's like we're here to sing the stars awake. We're here to sing the whales and sing the medicines, and but also we're engineers and designers and architects, and so that's very central to the whole teaching of True Human.
Wow, what a beautiful story! Thank you so much, and thank you to Sophia for coming through. Right? Has she She's come through multiple times since then as well, or?
Well, I mean, my relationship with this intelligence, I'm not a big fan of the New Age's frameworks for what's quote unquote channeling. I don't usually use the word channeling because I think we need to actually take responsibility for our own creative center, even if it's a hollow bone center. And I would say that I have this a contact with an intelligence that is like the intelligence of a human, of humanness relative to the Gaian song. And the first piece that I wrote, there's 4 pieces from Sophia, and the first one in a lot of ways really felt like a channeling. I was driving on a very long road trip, and it was like, pull over, start writing. And that the first piece that's called Sophia Speaks, that's inside chapter 5, which is sort of the whole download in a very short form of the whole book, was written by the side of the road all at once. And the other pieces also came through in pretty tight chunks with a sense of being attuned to and connected to the intelligence of these humans who live in, they do have technologies, but they view technology in the way that we do digital technology as a lower level of capacity than what we can do with our own minds. Like the way they travel through space is telepathically. They know how to move in their body doubles. They're like, spaceships are really inefficient, for example.
There's a heart, you can go.
Yeah. And so, and I mean, their cosmologies are very similar to a lot of indigenous cosmologies that are organized to help or also original instructions that are organized to help humans make sense of who and what we are relative to the persistence and continued evolution of the whole kingdom, of all of life.
This is wonderful, beautiful. So let's say there's just the average human that comes and reads this book and maybe knows none of what you're talking about, right? Like maybe they don't have any relationship with the elements, with the earth, with, even themselves. They're just caught up in the rat race of everyday living, just trying to survive in, modern day capitalism.
Right.
What is like the intent? I hate to name my names. I always use my brother. I'm like, if my brother read it, would he have a shift? Would he have an open awareness? Would there some, what's the hope to get for someone to get out of the book? Like, is there like just a different lens of the world that we're in and hope for the future, or making the sense out of the world that we're in?
Yeah, I mean the book is written to the very raw edge of this moment, and it's written to and for anyone who has a bit of a what the fuck around like what's going on with climate, what's going on with AI, what's going on with the future of my jobs, what's going on with my depression or my anxiety or my loneliness or my feeling that there's nothing for me. Like we're heading into the headwinds of this moment are completely nihilistic relative to human meaning and purpose. And so it's for anyone who feels that. I wouldn't say this book, if someone's like, everything's fine, they may not be interested in this book. But if someone has a glimmering of this is not like other times. What's going on? And I'm struggling with depression or meaninglessness or hopelessness. Like it could be personal anxiety, depression, loneliness, meaninglessness. It could also be collective, existential climate grief or AI fear or, watching what's going on geopolitically and with polarization and with the unraveling of our democracy and democracies generally. True Human, one of the strongest pieces of feedback I'm getting from early readers is that it's giving them like this really surprising, renewed sense of hope and a direction to move towards. The book is not about like, here's the 10 things to do. The book is about what direction to walk in. And it's designed to validate all the different ways that anyone might choose to walk in that direction. It's also designed to meet people in that sense of disconnection as a kinship journey, which is different than the hero's journey. It's I make the argument that the emergent narrative, the narrative of our emerging age is no longer the hero's journey, but the kinship journey. The kinship journey begins when you recognize that disconnection is a problem. And then you go out seeking your own healing and reconnection to the meaning of your own life. And what you end up finding is that life is meaningful when you serve something bigger than yourself.
It's beautiful. I actually really love that. That actually sounds very resonant because the tradition of the hero's journey, which is then there's the heroine's journey. And it is kind of individualistic, right? And it's like, well, we're all here on this planet together and it's not just about us. It's the plants, the animals, the earth, the relationship with the stars, the waters, I could go on and on. And that, I'm sure on some level this is addressed in the book as this disconnection, just even from I use this with my clients, water. Water is like one of the greatest ways to just at least start that connection. But how many people are completely disconnected from the shower that they take every morning,
Right.
Is that what you're talking about? Is like that
absolutely
depths of wow.
Yeah.
I like that. This is This should go. This should be the next Joseph Campbell, right? Like the kinship journey as a humanity. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah, and
go on.
Go ahead.
Go on. No, go.
I mean, true human is a lot of things. There's 4 parts in the book. The first part addresses our current conundrum as the meta crisis, or as an unprecedented evolutionary moment, both for ourselves and for the planet as a whole. It's a geological moment that we gave the name the Anthropocene, where like we are the keystone species that's changing things most rapidly and causing the 6th great extinction and possibly our own extinction and kinds of evolution that have never occurred before in technocultural process. And kinds of existential risk that have never occurred before. And all of that's totally unique to this moment. I mean, there's been existential moments for humanity and for other organisms, but this extinction portal is unique. And creates
everything.
Unique, opportunities and affordances. And so that section is about that. And it's also about taking the view, it's that no organism exists separate from its purpose and its ecology. And that's ecologically true. It's scientifically true. And so if you take that view, you can start to ask, well, what is the purpose of humans and our technology and economy inside the Earth's processes? Because we're actually smaller than that. We'll extinct ourselves if we extinguish that. So, and then you have to look at how can we reverse engineer ecological alignment at a biospheric scale. So that first section, I kind of ask those big questions and invites you to think about your own life in that context of meeting separation as an initiatory opportunity. And then it takes you through the initiation of that, and the healing journey of that, and then the collective journey of that. That's the book as a whole.
Amazing. And that's everything. That sums up every disconnection, I mean, to me, it's so simple, right? It's like all the world's problems could be just come down to that separation, right? And if there was a chance of healing this, we would have a global consciousness shift, which I believe we're having on some level. And sometimes when I leave my bubble, it seems like, oh, there's no hope. I mean, I was just in Egypt, on this amazing spiritual journey. And then, you look around and it's like, oh, well, this is how the rest of the world, like, this is actually what's going on in the world. It's, there's pollution, there's garbage, there's overpopulation, I could go on. And it's like, it just seems, it's like I sat there on the Great Pyramid a few weeks ago in the evening and I was like, wow, this feels so Kali Yuga. There's no other way to put it. It's like this beautiful spiritual experience with cell towers in the background and laser lights and honking and traffic and smog. And it's just like holding that polarity, and it's this dance, and it's, but then is the concept of, like the only way, because it's funny when you say like, oh, people that are like, oh, everything's okay, all is well. I literally don't know anyone feeling that way. And I think some of us, like I can speak for myself and some friends of mine, are very much at peace with a certain level of accepting the greater picture that we can't know, which brings a sense of peace. It also still brings like deep existential grief. I mean, so much. That's a huge part of my own personal journey, is just so much collective grief. But then at the same time, it's like, okay, there's something bigger here. There's something bigger that we don't know that needs to happen, that all we can do is do our work and keep praying. But, is there this context around like the greater journey of like when I say the word Kali Yuga, which by the way is, no one knows if that's, there's just, it's all theory, right? It's all like speculation, like, oh, we're at the beginning, we're at the end. It's like, oh no, we're nowhere even near it. Who knows? But do we take into account like these greater cycles of what just the earth needs to go through? And, Gaia's on her own spiritual journey of death and rebirth, like, or is this just like, oh, how do we come to terms with what's happening and be our best selves? Like, or is it a little of both?
Oh, I think there's many ways to come to terms with what's happening. The view that I take is that we are living organisms who are incredibly ingenious and very much capable of being a keystone custodial species. It's actually in our biology to engage in reciprocal processes with soil and forests and technocultural processes of shared governance. Increasingly, it appears anthropologically that prior to the development of large-scale civilizations, we were highly nomadic and very, very accustomed to meeting strangers and making friends across large spaces. This is, I've been reading a book called Goliath's Curse that's just absolutely fantastic if you want to understand the biological basis of our deeper nature. What you start to see is that we're really we're social organisms who are actually really designed to befriend others, and we don't do well in the context of inequality. As soon as we have a lot of inequality, we end up with war and all kinds of other negative outcomes. But there's a lot of hope when you look at like our base biological nature, actually. And we are in a moment where we're trapped in a civilizational architecture based on a story of separation that requires endless growth. It has a growth incentive, growth imperative. It functions according to zero-sum games, in other words, games that have winners and losers. And which multiplied by multiple players creates what's called a zero-sum trap, a multipolar trap. So classic example of a multipolar trap is that even if you don't cut the tree down, someone else will, and then they can pay for more saws and more guns, and you will still lose your ecosystem if you don't cut down the tree. So then you have, all kinds of people becoming miners and loggers in the Amazon, even though they actually really love the Amazon.
Yeah.
That's a classic example.
Daniel Schmartenberger talks about that. Yeah. That's where I first heard that concept and was like, wow. And that plays out in so many levels around the world and so many levels. And it plays out on small levels between us as influencers, where there's competition for likes or competition for audience, because anyway, it goes on and on. Exactly.
So, given that, I think there's hope in that life wants more life. And we are organisms who actually underneath it all, and kind of both underneath and above it, on a biophysical level, we want things to keep going. On a biospiritual level, we have the capacity to envision into deep time and to create the context where that could happen. And this is what True Human is dedicated to, is the possibility that more and more of us start to migrate our time, energy, attention, and fiscal processes, our processes of value creation, to regenerative frameworks. There's an increasingly large ecology of businesses and industries that are, and people who are finding ways to transact values in ways that are non-extractive. There are more and more people who are recognizing that the center of what makes our life meaningful isn't having more things, but building relationships and caring for our kids and creating beauty and abundance, both, in the human aesthetic, but also in the ecological spaces that we inhabit. The part of the orientation of True Human is that turning our agency to tend the vitality of life is one of the most redemptive things that we can do. So on one level, we can make peace with what's going on. We can do the grieving. We can, hold that this is Gaia's initiation, or however you hold it, or that this is an ascension process. But ultimately, I think the best way to biospiritually dignify the gift of our lives is to find ways to engage our life force and our choices and our actions in starting to create reciprocal processes in life, in the real world. And by doing this, we're starting to cobble together the next civilization, an emergent form of civilization that is a truly different thing than what has been. Because you could argue, and a lot of my friends from the global majority, from global South, global majority people would say, like, civilization is not a thing. You know, they would take the view that it's like been the most, as John Trudell said, it's the most bloodthirsty, violent thing that has ever happened on the face of the planet. And so if we want to flourish, we might need to do something different at scale.
We might.
But I think of that as the great remembering, and I see it happening everywhere. You know, I don't see it as the dominant cultural pattern. You know, as you were saying, it's like you get out of your bubble and you're like, wow, this is a real mess. And you look at the amount of money and power pointed in the wrong direction, and it's a really huge mess. Yeah.
Yeah, that was going to be, and thank you so much for sharing. This is amazing. It's great because I just had dinner with a friend on Monday where we spent the whole conversation talking about, you know, he is someone privileged enough to be able to start businesses that are doing things differently, you know, and what I would call regenerative. And, you know, I said the word investor, and he's like, no one would invest in this, because it's not a short-term capital gain in the, you know, 5-year period that they want, or even 10, or even possibly ever, you know, might be 2 or 3 generations. And it's just interesting because I listen to you and I'm like, oh yeah, me and pretty much everyone I know gets what you're talking about. But then when I step out of the bubble into, you know, because of course I've been criticized over certain comments I've said where someone's like, well, get real. We're just trying to pay the bills and put food on the table. You know, and we look around, you know, even here in America, it's like, you know, I feel blessed to be in that kind of privileged category of being able to kind of do what I want. You know, I still have to work, you know, I still have bills to pay, and it's not like I'm, you know, I'm not sitting on gigantic amounts of savings, but I'm in that privileged few. But then we do look around and there are people that are like barely making ends meet, and they are part of that cycle that is driven by, like you said, this persistent growth for gain, right? And this continued systemic issue, you know, and it's like, it's not just the United States, it's the whole entire world, right? And that's where I start to get, because I know, I mean, I've explored this for years. In majority of my ceremonies actually tend to be about these bigger issues. And it's been very challenging to sit with and make sense out of them, because, you know, sometimes I come out of them and I'm like, oh, everything's going to be okay. It's great. We're birthing this new world and blah. And then I'm like, sometimes I've come out of them and I'm like, fuck this. This is impossible. We're never going to see this in our lifetime. And I don't know. I still believe we will see a gigantic shift in our lifetime. I pray that there really is some, you know, I don't know if I like to put this energy out there and like something will come save us. But I have that prayer that there's just like, maybe one day there's just this massive shift. You know, maybe there's a big cataclysmic event and maybe that's what it'll take. Or maybe there'll just be like a pop and like consciousness will just evolve overnight and everything will be solved. I don't know. I mean, who knows? But sometimes I come out and I'm like, wow, there's no hope, you know? And I think a lot of us listening go between those polarities of like, even, you know, just mentioning the word AI, it's like, even coming to terms with that is so challenging. You know, it's like, oh, there's a lot of beauty and there's a lot of grief and there's a lot of uncertainty and there's fear. And, you know, there's this part of me that's like, I just want to get back to the simple way of being a human on the earth in connection with the plants, you know, but then we have this technology and it's, you know, and it's like, how do we live in this reality and also make sense and have hope and not be in the privileged few that are just like able to say like, oh, you know, yeah, we're birthing a new earth. Well, you travel around the world and it seems like most people are actually kind of suffering.
We're in a mess, and it's a really big mess, and we may or may not make it. I mean, to me, I don't know if anything magical or I don't know if something's going to save us. I don't know if we're going to make it. I don't know if any magical shift is going to happen. What I do know is that it's the quality of our relationships that will determine on a localized level and on a network level what occurs. And to the degree that we tend relationships that are based in reciprocity, mutual aid, care, respect, compassion, mutual benefit, like win-win as opposed to win-lose. Those choices shift initial conditions. Like, for example, there's a possibility that enough of us could learn how to interact in reciprocal ways and regenerative ways that there could be a massive shift towards regenerative economy. But that only would happen. That massive shift would only happen because a lot of individual networks, individual actors and networks started to behave that way, which cobbles together the structural and systemic conditions for that to become a rapid change, right? It's like you kind of have to think like a petri dish, like you're yeasting things, and that you're part of a process that may be invisible for a while. It's like when big social movements happen, first they're invisible, then they're resisted even more violently, then all of a sudden something will collapse and the shift will happen. That's how big changes happen in collective consciousness, is first invisibly, then they're visible, and then they're resisted, often extremely violently, and then a big shift occurs. But in terms of our collective future, the horizon for human flourishing, if it is to happen, is about the quality of our relationships. That's like one of the keystone principles. So that's the way every single person is powerful. And it comes like we now meet with our neighbors and have everybody's numbers and know who has kids, know who has cancer, know who has fused discs in their spine, and that's why they're grumpy. And I don't have a neighborhood food resilience plan yet, and that would be very hard in my neighborhood because we don't have good soil where I live. But some people live in places where you could take down fences and start to share gardens. There's like all kinds of opportunities when you start to look at how can I improve the resilience of my relationships, both locally and within my network, the resilience and the strength. And that actually is like a very meaningful way to shift initial conditions. Another really meaningful way to shift initial conditions, the book talks a lot about kinship. And in the way that I'm initiated on a soul level, there's like each one of us is sort of uniquely called to something, to be a thing that we tend. And I have a lot of things, so it's hard for me to say I just have one, but white lions are one of them. Monarch butterflies are another one. And like there's a lot of projects to replant monarch butterfly fodder and protect the migratory corridors of monarch butterflies. So, you might have foxes as your thing, or you might have bees or protecting the deep sea, or stopping ocean trawling, or animal rights generally, or like, but if everyone just chose one thing and stayed attentive to it, which is easier to do if you choose fewer things, then we would get somewhere in terms of setting up virtuous loops of care for the world. Right? So I feel like there's some basic patterns that can help us ground into what it is to be good custodians. And by living them forward, then within the ecology of all the humans, we start to set up these virtuous loops of behavior at scale.
It's interesting when you talk about even the kinship and the neighbor. It's funny because I live in this kind of community. Like the community is getting tighter and tighter, and not everybody, but the conscious community where I live, like I even said to you, like, oh, when you come here on a book tour, I'm sure I know this person. Everybody kind of is interwoven. There's a big web, and it's really great, and I think it's because there is a certain desire for that through, I think, everybody that has chosen to live here. And then also, it's something about the region. It's like there's this 2-hour radius, this bubble where it's like, yeah, you could drive 2 hours and like we're all interconnected. And there has been more and more talk of that. There's been more and more, like sharing of food and sharing of resources and discussions. And, you know, even on the street that I live on a private road and it's a dirt road and no one has fences. And there is a certain level of like, hey, can I borrow this? And you have this, and the chickens come over here and come and take any of my vegetables. But when you said that, I was like, oh yeah, we're doing that. And then I'm like, well, wait a second. I live on your microcosm of all of America's problems in one street. You know, we have the extreme left-wing liberal farmers on the corner, and then we have the extreme right, like Trump-loving neighbors with multiple guns, like 2 doors down. And by the way, I love them both. They're great. Like, everybody's great. Somehow we all get along. But it's very interesting because some of us have discussed it. We're like, if shit really hit the fan and we needed to just come together as a community, like, would we be able to, or would some of these people, and it's like the extreme too. It's not just like, oh, people in the middle. No, it's like the polar opposite. And I think everyone can figure it out, but it's like, even when I look at that, and that's happening, you know, it's not just the US, it's like everywhere you go around the world, you know, I like to think it's getting better just because I think people are just sick of it. It's like the polarization's gotten so bad, it's really draining. But I mean, you see this just out and about sometimes, you know, it's like, oh, that guy wearing that hat, let's point the finger. And I'm like, how do we ever have hope for kinship when there's again, it's the separation story. And it just seems to be like perpetuated by the media, you know, now the algorithms. I mean, even going on social media, it's almost, I'm like, are they just wanting us to hate each other more? Like it almost seems like it.
And they do, because it makes more money. Yeah. I don't have easy answers for how intensely broken our epistemic commons are, you know, our meaning making capacity, our communication capacity. That is a place, I mean, I'm not developing new online platforms. It is a place where I'm like, please, you know, big tech people, medium tech people, not big tech people, but please, we need a new platform. You know, we need new mechanisms for communication. And I'm in Silicon Valley, and there are people working towards such things, but nothing that's like ready to scale in a compelling way that could also draw our attention off of our AI chatbots for long enough to, you know, have that happen. The place where I see the most hope around it is in deliberative and participatory democracy. And there is a quiet, growing movement for citizen assemblies and participatory democratic process is in the United States that are all cross-partisan processes. And cross-partisan isn't really like, there's a lot of work going on right now to understand the structure of the divides in our country. They're no longer red-blue divides. There's like there's approximately 7 major mimetic camps. And there's good work going on to understand that. But what at the end of the day, like the thing that matters is, can we talk to each other and make decisions together? And that movement is gaining steam. Whether it can kind of bust through the noise of what's happening right now and coming through the next election remains to be seen. Like you said, there is the possibility of some major event of some kind. There's all kinds of possible major events that could happen between now and then, now in 2028. I don't know what will happen.
Yeah.
But I do know that showing up to 10 relationships matters. Yeah. And I do know that treating people like human beings matters. And to the degree that I'm doing that, I'm an ingredient that shifts initial conditions. As are you, by making friends with the left and the right neighbors. You know, it's like that shifts initial conditions.
Yeah. And that's it. It's like, you know, I think when push comes to shove, we all have to get back to the human level. You know, like because I always think about this in the grand scheme of whatever. Like, I've been through so many natural disasters and I was in New York City during 9/11, and the more I've lived through these big, especially living in New York City, I was there for the blackout. It's like you see people drop everything and come together. It just, there is no, what team are you on when everybody's kind of freaking out and feeling like, attacked, or, just like under that nervous system attack. Yeah. So I feel like I've seen that, and I know I'm like, well, if push comes to shove, I don't think they're going to care who they voted for, I do think it's so much deeper. And like you said, it's like built into our biology. We're here to be pack animals by nature. It's just kind of funny when you get down to like, oh, well, but you can't even like, I think I'm blessed where I live, but I go to other parts of the country. I'm like, oh my God, there's like road rage everywhere. Like people can't even drive properly around each other. But I tend to be on the optimistic side in general, because I do believe in the human heart, which I think is what this idea of true human is probably getting at as well. It's like we are not made to be part of this old story that is not serving anyone, the story of separation. And I think, my prayer is with, more of the consciousness awakening and more people stepping onto some kind of a path of awakening, doesn't matter what way that is. I hope that means, more of this energy is coming out, right? Like there's more of this breaking down, and maybe an emergence of something that we don't know, right? It's like, we don't know, but it's, I think the more I talk to and interview people like you who are at least speaking about it, writing about it, have platforms, it's like, that's it. It's already emerging, right? Just by having this conversation. At least that's what I'd like to think, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think I have a ton of hope. And I believe in the human heart, and I believe in the human soul. And I think our nature is to inhabit the soul ecology and participate in a process that collaborates with life in a really diverse ways. Like some people are singers and artists and dancers, and some people are farmers and gardeners, and some people are content creators and producers, and some people are healers, some people are engineers, these are all part of like all of our different gifts in the soul ecology. And I think there's one tiny mighty little shift that can make all the difference, which is putting life at the center of everything we do and recognizing that it's sacred and delicate, that the bandwidth within which biophysical, ecological process occurs is very small, very delicate, and sublimely precious. And one of the teachings in True Human is that the narrow bandwidth where life occurs is the most intelligent, vital fabric in God's mind. There's nothing more epic and magnificent and infinitely generative than life. And we're part of that. And when you put your attention on that, that's what I call enlightenment, as opposed to enlightenment. So as opposed to like looking to the light, which is to shape your attention towards the general, like the field of unity, in enlightenment, we put our attention on the field of diversity. And we tend it with love, and we tend it with the genius of our co-creative capacity. And it's that tiny little shift of just like, oh, life is what we're doing. We're not here to like transcend it or get away from it or fix it. We're here to collaborate.
Be saved. Yeah. The co-creative versus the, well, like up and out, like, oh, well, someone will save me, or maybe if I transcend, or which I think, it's funny coming from a lot of these spiritual communities and medicine communities as well. There's a lot of that tendency when it's actually the opposite. It's like down and in versus like looking to be saved, or, even watching myself like, oh, part of me does hope there's just some like thing that comes in, like maybe in an instant we'll be saved. But I know that's not the path forward, that's a disempowering path. And I think, It's funny. I just came back from Egypt, and that was one thing that really came through so much was like, it's written in these ancient hieroglyphics, like how much it is about that. It's the co-creative sovereign power of the human, the human and the creation force, the life force energy. And it's like written up there. It's been there for God knows, 10,000 years BC, or, no one really knows. But yeah, and that's what gives me hope, but I like to always play devil's advocate as well. It's a wild world holding both. And I'm curious, you talk about technology, and it's funny because I know you've posted about this over the years, and I think you have a partner that also works in tech, right? Like, yeah. What are, how do you address I forgot what Daniel Schmarter, it's part of the meta crisis, but this kind of the new AI coming online, the future of technology, the potential of what it's here to do. How do you come to terms with it in this book? Like, how do you address our relationship with, is it good? Is it bad? It's neither or,
Technology is a capacity that evolves out of that humans have the capacity to create technology. Technology is not nature. The way I address it in True Human is I ground into some very basic definitions that I think we're really confused about. People use machine and computer metaphors all the time to describe bodies and brains. And bodies are bodies and brains are brains, and neither are machines. And machines are tools that are created by beings like ourselves to achieve narrow goals. And they harvest energy and materials in ways that break biophysical, geological, and biological and ecological processes that don't require the same, are free of the positive and negative feedback loops within ecology that balance out ecologies. So technology breaks ecology. It's not nature. If it is nature, it's a very different thing than biological process. But I think it's more useful to just say it's not nature. And so I start from some very basic definitions and reclaim the conversation about technological maturity from technologists. So currently the only people defining or describing what technological maturity is are technologists who are defining it according to the evolution of technology, not the evolution of humanity and the biosphere. Wow. So most of the current definitions of technological maturity are ridiculously immature if you give a shit about the future of humanity or the future of complex life on Earth. That's the first step. I have this little tiny delicate glimmer of techno-optimism in me. That's if we could start with the right definitions and recognize that the way we do technological process breaks ecology, we could then use our capacity for engineering and for innovation to start to innovate technologies that align with biological process. This is very hard because technology is very energy and materials intensive, but it's the right direction to ask questions. So I start by putting forward some of what I think are the right kinds of thought experiments and questions for technology people to be asking, and for everyday people to just understand, whoa, look at the way you're using language and look how actually sloppy and unhelpful it is, and get your definitions right.
That's a great start, because that's everything. I mean, that is
it's
everything.
A great start. Yeah.
Structure
it's a
of
really
all reality
helpful start.
Language. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where I start. I don't have a proposal for AI alignment. I am friends with people in that space and colleagues with people in that space. Tristan Harris is a colleague. Daniel Schmachtenberger is a colleague. It's one of the hardest. It's there's a lot of wicked questions and wicked problems out there in terms of how do we make our way through this. Aligning the economy with life is one of the other wicked problems that is almost as hard, but not as hard as AI. So, but starting with some of the right definitions is really helpful. And then I think for an individual who, doesn't have any particular power relative to the future of AI, where we have power is to be political advocates for slowing down, and to put energy into those movements that are galvanizing, that ask for that demand that the big companies slow the fuck down, and that they be subject to regulation and control. And the other is around cognitive sovereignty. And it is increasingly, the evidence is in, when you outsource your intelligence and your relational processes to AI, you end up in cognitive decline, and you also end up with a bunch of of detachment disorders. So social media hacked attention and AI hacks attachment. What that means is your AI bots, your chat bots, are designed to mirror you back to you. So people say, oh, but this thing loves me, or I'm in love with this thing. What they're in love with is themselves being accurately reflected by the communication strategy that your personal AI takes, because each AI is uniquely tuned to its user.
So sad, because that's the very first thing you learn as a therapist is mirroring.
Right.
I mean, it's like,
right.
Which we should teach to kindergartners, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, I think, to the individual user, it's like it's important to understand that AI is a perfect sociopath. The difference between a sociopath and an empath is that an empath has embodied empathy. They feel you with their body. They feel feelings that you feel. A sociopath has cognitive empathy. They can mirror back what may feel to you like they feel you, but they don't have any feelings about it. That's what an AI does.
It's so funny. I've never thought about it. You're right. It's exactly
once you understand that, wow. you can start that. To me, those are really deep grounds with cultivating discipline and how I interact with or don't interact with AI. I also have a limit. Like, I don't use it every day. I do use it to collaborate with work tasks. Did not write the book with it. The book was written by a real human brain and body and mind. But I do use it to collaborate with on a work level, but you have to be really, really disciplined about cognitive sovereignty.
God, I've yelled at clients over AI, because I'm the same way. First of all, I've now proven it to myself that it actually, first of all, it doesn't save more time, for certain things. Yes. But in the end, I always end up rewriting most of what it writes anyways. And everyone's like, oh, you just train it. It cannot replace my heart. And I am one of those people that I feel, and I know myself so well that I'm like, if I don't feel this, it's not going to land for anyone. If it doesn't land
so
for me,
much AI copy out there, and people can tell.
Yeah, no, I've been saying that since day one. I'm like, and actually, I keep making jokes that I'm going to be great. I'm excited because the more people use it, the more those of us that are like actually still using our heart, people feel that energy. I feel it. I can tell in a second. And so I've actually come down kind of hard on some clients where I'm like, did you write that? It's like, I can feel you. I've been working with you for 6 months. I can feel when it's not you. And they're like, oh my God, I just used a little. But then I'm like, but this isn't going to land for the person that's getting to know you, And there is like you said, like there's this balance, like the, being in a right relationship with it, but having people like completely outsource everything and then just churning it out. It's like, where's that going to leave us as a humanity? Mm-hmm. Right. And it's interesting because I have heard about people using AI as their therapist and as their psychedelic integration coach. I've actually tested it on astrology, and it was completely wrong, which is very funny because I have a screenshot of what I took where it was like, it couldn't get my astrology right. And it tried guessing it like over and over and over and over. And I was like, but I'm giving you my exact data, and it couldn't get it right. So then people are now, it's like anything, right? They're getting misled.
Right. Oh my God. It hallucinates far more often than you would think. I did that experiment. Well, I've done some really disturbing experiments around information around the witch burnings, and the under reporting of what actually happened is so shocking if you actually know the history.
Well, Tiananmen, but then, you know about the Tiananmen Square, that one as well. Yeah, because I forgot the name of the AI.
No, I don't, but I wouldn't be surprised.
There was a Chinese AI that came out last year or the year, I forgot, a year and a half ago, and it kind of blew up for a second. But because it was China owned, if you typed in ask it would literally shut down. It wouldn't even answer. And then if you kept pestering it, it would give a vague, like it just, and I was like, wow, this is really, I mean, this, which is worse, like the media that we have today or this, you know? It's like wipe away an entire piece of history.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So what are your, you know, I'm curious, like, where, I mean, like the idea, because I've listened to a lot of, I mean, it's funny, I never listen to podcasts, but this is the one area I've actually found really fascinating to listen to, like Mark Andreessen and, you know, just some of the big tech players talk about AI, because I find it really fascinating. And there has been that call for a slowdown, but, you know, we're driven by the need to continuously grow. And it's, I forgot the name of the term, but it's that same term, right? If we don't...
It's the multipolar trap. Yeah. Yes. If you don't get to the top first, then you will not be the player who defines the playing field. Yeah.
And then we're going to be the country that is, you know, like falling behind and so everybody's racing
we're in the
top.
ultimate. I mean, the AI alignment problem is an ultimate multipolar trap problem.
Wow. Maybe that's where I had heard it, because I've heard it now a couple times and I'm like, oh my God, that explains everything. Because to me, it doesn't make sense. Like, why wouldn't we slow down? I mean, the people at the top of all these games and these companies, the governments, they all have children and grandchildren. Like, don't they care about the future? But it's that, you know, it's like, oh, but if we don't do it, then China will. And then.
Yeah. I mean, with AI, it's both that impulse. That's a multipolar trap impulse. And then it's also a religious impulse. It's the impulse to build God.
God.
And it's a very, very religiously, it's a fascinating place to study the religious psychology, because all the major AI players will claim to be hyper rationalistic, but there's an immense religiosity in that movement.
This is interesting.
It's a race to build God.
Oh my God. Never even dove into this. Wow. That's a whole other meta crisis right there. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, you know, the one thing I'll say about all this, you know, first of all, I can't wait to read True Human. This is amazing. But, you know, I sit here and I laugh. I giggle a lot. It's probably my internal way of deflecting the grief and the pain and the collective. But I think I've also gotten to that point of like, it is so wild to be alive right now. I mean, you know, I go through the depths of the grief and the sorrow and the, you know, the wailing on the ground in the middle of the jungle. Been there and done that multiple times. And, you know, it's actually very fascinating, you know, to be alive as a human in this complex world of like, it just seems like it could be so easy, but it's like one more thing and one more thing. And it's like, you know, I'm wondering, like, do you speak about the body and the nervous system in this book and like where that comes into play? Like because that's one area where I keep having this theory with the more and more content and information and AI and, you know, platforms and distractions. And I just think there's a place where people are going to be fried. And they're actually going to say,
people are
like,
already getting fried.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I just can't do it anymore. You know what? I'm going to go outside and like lay on the earth, you know?
Well, that is one of the places where I actually see the potential for a massive movement. That's a movement of sanity. That's just like, I remove my attention. Because our brains and our bodies are getting fried. And so there's natural complexity and there's anthro-complexity. And we are alive at a time when the level of anthro-complexity exceeds any that's ever existed. It's only getting more intense. And the antidote is to ground in your body and take time in nature and take time with real life human beings who have limitations of time, energy, attention, and capacity to co-regulate with in that the limited beauty of our imperfect humanity. Or I would say the perfect beauty of our limited humanity. Or, you know, it's like it's like that's where the antidote and the medicine lies. And embodiment, my background is embodiment. A lot of people don't know this about me anymore, but I spent 30 years doing dance transformation, yoga, community development, art. I built a thing called Dancing Freedom and took it all over the world. And I think embodiment is one of the ways back into the real. It's like, it's a way back into our nervous systems and back into self-regulation. It's a way back into co-regulation. It's a way back into an experience of meaning, and from that purpose and value that is not arbitrary. It's not a construct of the mind. And I think part of where we're struggling so much is like, it's like these castles of mind that impact us. But at the end of the day, like if you just stop and like lay your body in the grass in the sunlight, you're regrounding into the real. And regrounding into what makes life worth living at all. So I think there have been multiple sort of revivals of embodiment in the West, the yoga industry blooming being the first one. And now there's a more distributed like medicine, dance, yoga, kind of like low house kind of movement, lifestyle movement. But I think there's the potential for a next level of embodied revolution that also involves like reclaiming gardening and reclaiming raising our kids without technology and reclaiming reading books to each other and reclaiming laying in the sun in the grass, for an hour. Like, sure, yeah, there's been a movement of recognizing we need vitamin D and people are doing that. But like, I think there's more to do, and that's also about where we put our attention and that sovereignty of attention.
Yeah, it's funny. My friends, this summer, I think you would appreciate this story. They went camping with their kid and, out in the nature somewhere further north. And they said they were camping next to a mother and a son, and the son was a teenager. And he rode around on a unicycle in the middle of the day, and they walked up to her and were like, how is your teenage son riding a unicycle and camping? Like it's like, how did you raise a kid that knows how to do that, that's not on his phone, that's actually out camping and enjoying himself? And she said, well, I've kept him off a lot of technology, And I think it was like, they do alternative schooling and, it's like, but that's such a strange concept to me where I'm like, oh, when I was a kid, like we had nothing to do other than ride around on our bikes and climb trees and get into trouble outside. It's like there was literally cable TV only came out when I was whatever, like a kid. And even then it wasn't that exciting. So there was nothing else to do anyways. But to even like have someone these days have to say like, oh my God, that's so unusual to have a kid that's like doing something different and unique. And he's like, okay with it too.
Totally. I've been thinking about the possibility of a movement of playing real instruments, like there's all these things that.
Yes.
So in True Human, there's a frame of like, what do true humans do?
Yeah.
Well, we tend ecosystems, we plant seeds, we grow gardens, we pick fruit, we make music, we make art, we sing songs, we do ceremony, we do math and we do science, but like fundamentally, it's all the teachings of the medicine ways. It's like these ways of being our reciprocal currencies in the creation. They're not just for us. They're part of what we bring to the soul ecology. And it turns out they also they develop our brains and have us feel like there's beauty and meaning and purpose in life. And because it's our purpose, so it's like.
And somehow you're less depressed and you feel really good and you're vibrating higher when you sing and when you dance and when you play music. Yeah, I know. It's
like why not? It's just like, these are things are fun, interesting. We're so obsessed with like the forward edge of anthropocomplexity, but none of that makes us happy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's all really unhealthy for us because it's like pushing beyond the bounds of our biophysical alignment relative to our bodies and brains. So part of the smart design challenge is to like refocus on what makes us happy and healthy.
And I'm sure you've experienced it. I mean, I know I have, where I've gotten clients that are maybe in midlife, tends to hit in midlife, where it's like, oh, I've done well. I've bought a few homes. I've sold businesses. And I'm not happy. And then, then they seek the psychedelic experience and I'm still not happy. And then they seek the, and it's like, what is going on? Well, it's like, we've gotten the programming all wrong, which is, just, it's again, deeper systemic problem. But, and I think, I'm curious, do you talk about any plant medicines in your book, or like, does that come up? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a whole chapter on, the special help of sacred plant medicines, and which of course I do think includes other molecules and substances as well. But I like to, I'm a plant ally and advocate and student, and I like the complexity of those full plant, full mushroom alkaloids and indices of vitality and intelligence. And it's a fun chapter, and it's a chapter that's really about what it is to be a medicine person. And also, there's been, the psychedelic industry has been through a lot. But I do think that these plants are kind of scaling themselves. Like, I don't know if you've read is it The Secret Life of Plants? There's a book that I'm not remembering the name of this book, but it talks about how plants have their own will, and how like corn propagated itself and potatoes propagated themselves, and tobacco propagated itself because it wanted to have a planetary destiny. And I feel the same way about the psychedelic plants. Like, they have a will that is a will towards, certainly grandmother has a lot to say about this, that she would like us humans to align ourselves in a way that is good for the whole jungle, and i.e. the whole planet. And so the chapter is thoughtful about, like, if you take the view of the plants, or if you take the view of the planet, or if you take the view of these different people, like, why might you want plants to get to the people at this time in the evolutionary process? It's a fun chapter.
Total sense. Yeah, I love it. Well, I'm curious, what is, other than a book tour, what's next for you? I mean, it's a big deal.
Well,
just 4 years of writing a book is, I hope you took a little break.
I'm sort of right now I'm in a little bit of the quiescent dip of like, okay, take a little pause. And there's a book tour coming. I'm launching in March. I haven't put it up online yet. It'll launch in a couple weeks. I'm launching an online devotional leadership program that is it's like a book club plus. We're going to go through a chapter of the book every week and work on in real life kinship leadership development for people in their communities. So it goes back to all this that I've been talking about with relationship and tending the horizon of like what each of us is uniquely called to do. And then the generalized principles of how we can shift initial conditions by showing up as true humans at this time. So that's going to launch in March. We're doing an album of all the meditations at the end of each chapter. So the first drop is going to happen mid-December. I'm working in partnership with DTO, who's just amazing. The first meditation is You Are Nature. It's the end of chapter 6. And then we'll see. Like I feel really available to the way True Human I have a big leadership mission. It's a mission that is it's a cultural mission. It's a spiritual mission. It's a mission of consciousness evolution. And I'm really available to where life takes me. Mm-hmm.
Well, and I can't wait to see where life takes you, because so far so good.
Yeah. Yeah. And I work with individual clients, and I love that. I love working with people as a soul mentor. And that's still happening.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to do some kind of a culmination leadership retreat in Costa Rica at our friend's place.
That would be amazing.
One of those places, yeah.
I would love that. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God, this discussion has been such an activation. I can't even tell you. I almost started crying, but I'm like, I try not to cry during podcasts. No, it's just weird. It's been this topic is so alive right now, and it's just even this. I'm like, it's only Wednesday, and why have I already had a bunch of discussions like this week? But that's how it goes, right?
Yeah,
and I love it. I mean, this is time.
That's the zeitgeist.
Perfect time for this. Yes.
Right.
I'm so glad.
Right.
And, please send me the link to this leadership program when it launches. We'll add it here in the show notes so everybody has it.
Amazing.
And, who knows? Maybe I'll just join it myself. Sounds about right. Samantha, I'm so proud of you. This is so amazing. What an inspiration to publish a book, and not only that, but a book that sounds so inspirational and so needed. And I really hope everybody will check it out. Because I do agree. Like if enough people start to shift our lens of the world towards life versus destruction, even when I make jokes about the Kali Yuga, I'm like, well, there's the other side of the Kali Yuga. Right. Towards this evolution in a beautiful way. I really do think we will have a shift, and I pray very hard to see this in our lifetime. But inshallah, right? God willing, we'll see.
Yeah. All you need to do is tend your stitch. Yeah. Each one of us is only one stitch in the fabric, so all you need to do is, and you're doing it.
One little seed in the garden.
You're doing it.
Yeah. I say that all the time. The Zen gardener, plant one little seed. Just water your seeds and give it care. Oh, Thank you so much for your voice and your writing and your beauty. And I can't wait to see you out here in the Hudson Valley. We'll get a big crew together.
I'm really looking forward to that. Yeah, I'm excited. I look forward to seeing you
around here. So yeah,
I love it. So good. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you're feeling inspired, I'd appreciate it if you showed your love with a review. And check out my YouTube channel where you can find the video version of this podcast. You can also head to BethAWeinstein.com to learn more about me and grab my free business growth trainings. Remember, you carry your own unique medicine, and your medicine is what we need for these times.